what's up you guys? So I've been trying to figure out what to do for my first video, and I thought, why not do a story time about how I ended up here in California. So, to give you a little bit of backstory, I was born and raised in Illinois, small little town 3 hours south of Chicago, nothing too extraordinary, but I never really felt like I fit in Illinois. It was just cornfields, not much going on. Didn't feel like that was where I was meant to be. Always wanted to move out here to California, but always had people in my ear telling me it would never happen, that I should not really dream, something like that. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So I was in this relationship in Illinois about 7 months ago, and it was a year-long relationship. Not the best relationship in the world, very, very toxic. Just constant fighting. I was depressed, not really in a very good place. So I got this idea one day, why not move to Florida? I had a friend that lived in Florida. I'm like, why not do it? Pack up my stuff and move all by myself. And so I ran it by my best friend that I was living with. I'm like, what do you think about this? And she's like, I think whatever makes you happy you should do. So I'm like, okay. So my relationship was over. I wasn't really happy there. There was nothing there for me. So I put my 2 weeks in at my job, an amazing job, but I wasn't happy. And so I packed up all my stuff, 2 suitcases and a little purse, and drove up to Chicago, jumped on a plane, and I had decided that I was going to stay in North Carolina for a couple days. I had a best friend who lived there, hadn't seen her in about 6 months. I'm like, I'll stay there for a couple days and then move to Florida. So I get to North Carolina, love it there. I love the South, I love Southern accents, I love everything about it. So the weekend was coming to a close, and I was going to have to, my friend was going to come up to North Carolina to pick me up, and I was going to go down there with them. But there were hurricanes going on at the time, so we decided it would just be safer for me to wait a couple more weeks and then go down to Florida. Well, I loved it in North Carolina so much, and I loved being with my best friend, that I'm like, I can't leave. I'm staying. So her parents ended up getting me a job at this bar. Hated the job, worst job I've ever had in my entire life, but it was money. And me and my friend, we'd go out. There was this nice little country line dancing club we'd go to, and lots of hot guys, lots of military boys. We lived in a military town, so it was just military boys like crazy. Met a few of them, went out with some of them. Well, me and my friend weren't getting along. There was lots of drama going on between us, and won't go much into detail with that, but I ended up meeting this girl on the internet. Her name's Natasha. We became best friends instantly. And so I decided to stay the weekend with her. I had weekends off. And so she picked me up from work on Thursday night. And I ended up staying with her Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And she had asked me if I wanted to move to Colorado with her, because her husband's in the military and he was getting transferred to Colorado. And I'm like, I don't know, I just met you. This is weird. Like, you're a stranger. I don't really know. Well, things were getting so bad between me and my friend just pretty much kicked me out. So I'm like, you know what? I am 26 years old, never been spontaneous. So I'm like, you know what? Let's travel. So I decided to move out to Colorado with her. And our plan was we were going to leave, pack up the car. They have 5 dogs and a little baby boy. And so her husband, he drives a Mustang. He put 3 of the dogs in his car. And we drove, me and her and the baby and the 2 other dogs got in the car with a whole bunch of luggage, and we were driving from North Carolina to California. His family lives in California. We were staying here for the holidays, and so we drove all the way. Beautiful, beautiful drive. I would do it again in an instant if I could. And so we come out to California, love it. Instantly fall in love. It's where I was meant to be. So we were out here about 2 months, and then we were going to go to Colorado. Her husband left a little early so he could find housing for us, so we weren't like homeless when we get out there. And I was not really looking forward to moving out to Colorado because it's cold and snowy and just not my thing. And I'd met some guys out here kind of loving California, wanted to go to the beach. I'd never seen a beach before my entire life. And so I was really looking forward to the beaches and the nice weather and the music festivals. And so Natasha's husband's cousin and his wife came to me, and they're like, we have a 1.5-year-old son, and Natasha told us you were really good with kids, so we were wondering if you would possibly want a nanny for us, be a live-in nanny, and you get to live in our house for free, we'll buy you whatever food you want, get you whatever you need, and all you have to do is Monday through Friday watch our son for us. I'm like, heck yeah. Instant. I will so do that. I love kids. I love California. Let's do that. So I end up moving in with them about 2 weeks before Natasha left for Colorado. And I was gonna hate leaving her, and she was my best friend, and it's hard to be in a new place when you don't really know anyone. And I mean, I knew her husband's cousin and his wife. I had seen them. They came over to the family's house, so I knew them, but essentially they were just strangers to me. And I hadn't really met any friends. I had met a couple guys, but not really any friends since I moved out here. And so that was a little nerve-wracking, but I felt like this was where I was meant to be. And so I move in with them. Natasha goes to Colorado. I'm lonely, don't really have any friends. I met one girl on the internet, but she lived about an hour and a half away from me, so we didn't get to see each other that much. But then I met this boy. His name is Bob. And we instantly became a thing. And a lot of the firsts I did out here were because of him. The first time I went to Disneyland was because of him. And Disneyland is like the greatest place on the entire planet. I'm so obsessed with it, but it was because of him. And we ended up really not. He didn't like labels, and I'm very much a label person. And so things with us didn't quite mesh, but we ended up deciding to become friends with benefits. Won't go much into detail with that unless you guys want me to. Then I'll make a whole new story time on that. But I was over at Carly's house one night, and we were playing Mario Kart, just messing around. I was on a dating site, and I met this guy. His name's Steven. And we were talking, and we just clicked instantly. And we just talked about anything and everything. He is the most amazing guy I've ever met. And so Carly takes me back home, and I am watching the little boy one day. And his mom comes home, and she's like, I have bad news. So the landlord of their apartment found out I was living with them, and they wanted $300 extra a month on rent. And now they couldn't afford that. I didn't have like a paying job because I was watching a child all week, 8 hours a day, sometimes 9. I didn't really have time for a paying job. And so I'm like, it's okay. I appreciate everything you guys have done for me. You guys have been amazing. I'll figure out something to do. So I was planning on just going to Colorado to live with Natasha. I mean, I didn't really have any other options. I mean, there was Carly, but I barely knew her. We had only hung out that one time. We text all the time, but I didn't really know her enough to like, hey, can I move in with you? And plus she lived with her boyfriend in a 1-bedroom apartment, and it just would have been a little awkward. So I was planning on moving with Natasha. I mean, she was my best friend. I had nowhere else to be here, so I'm like, okay. Well, me and Steven had hung out the other night, and we really liked each other. We clicked instantly. And so I was texting him. I'm like, I have some bad news. I have some bad news. They are pretty much kicking me out because the landlord found out. And I don't know if things can continue between us because I'm going to have to go to Colorado. And he hated that instantly. So he's like, you want to move in with me? And I'm like, I mean, I got to think about that. Now, when I left Illinois and then moved out here all that time, that was the first time I had ever been single my entire life. Like, from the time I hit 21, I always was in a serious relationship. And so I'm like, well, I'd have to think about it. Like, all my relationships had moved super, super, super fast. Like, moving in with the guy a week after I met them. And so I'm like, well, I have to think about it. And so we kept texting and everything, and the day's coming to where I had to be out by the end of February. And I'm like, you know what? I love it in California. So I'm like, you know what? I will move in with you. I have some doubts, some personal issues, but I'm head over heels for you. I would love to live with you. So I moved in, and that's how I got to California. We go to the beach almost every weekend. I feel like I was made to live in California. I feel like there's nowhere else in the world for me to be but California. I just love it here. I'm in heaven here. It's amazing. The weather's amazing. It's just my favorite place in the world. Well, there you go. That's my story time of how I got from Illinois to California. Hope you liked the video. If you liked, please give it a big ol' thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and the bell notification so you know when I post. Have a nice day.